let's begin. So you guys formed this place in 2009.
That's right.
Did you have any previous experiences in farming and sustainability that inspired you to start Hausbar?
Yes. I actually started a restaurant here in Austin in 1988 called the East Side Cafe. And my goal at that time was to open a restaurant in an old house. And rather inconveniently, we found this beautiful house on an acre of land that had this pesky 1/3 of an acre organic vegetable garden already there. And I just thought, this is the worst thing ever. I don't know how to garden. I don't know anything about gardening, but I'm sure going to figure it out because it's the best idea anybody ever had to raise food and then serve it to your customers in your own restaurant. So we took on another partner who knew how to garden organically and opened a restaurant that lasted 31 years, just closed. And along with that garden, the pesky garden that became the center of the restaurant, there was also a really substantial composting system set up and ready. The woman who had started her restaurant in that space before we got there was just way ahead of her time. So in 1982, she was already composting and growing her own vegetables, and she also had a huge recycling area set up. So even though her restaurant closed, we were able to swoop in and run with her ideas. We had our own ideas about our restaurant, but I would never have had recycling, composting in the garden without her. So I've been doing that professionally since 1985, working to make the world a little bit better place. So my wife and I bought this property in 2009, as you said, and it was a disaster. It was the least beautiful piece of property you've ever seen. 3 crack houses and heaps of garbage were what were here on this 2 acres before we got here. And I just had this dream, and as ugly as this property was, I just had to have it and figure out how to make it work. So for the last 9 years, we've been sort of adding and growing. It's been an awesome journey.
When you were in the process of starting and developing the farm, were there any difficulties you guys ran into, perhaps with the city or just like internally?
Yes, very surprising issues. So when we got here, we began slowly to put the farm together and then to live here and make this our home. And we had great relationships with our neighbors and just felt a real strong sense of community here. But because as part of our business plan, we were raising and harvesting our own sources of protein here. And when one of the neighbors heard about that, he became really, really upset. Even though we'd already been licensed and processing our own animals for 3 years without any incidents, because all we care about is the welfare of our animals. I actually told him that we raised our own animals and processed them here, and he just lost it. So that started a 2-year-long adventure of the worst kind when we became the test case for the rewrite of the City of Austin Urban Farm Ordinance. So for 2 years, we were examined every inch of our property, every facet of our business. We were in very contentious struggles with people who claimed to be from the neighborhood, who weren't from the neighborhood, but claimed to be representing some huge number of people who were being treated unfairly by our existence. Yes, so we had some trouble. Yes.
After opening, about how long did it take before you guys started supplying local businesses like restaurants and grocers?
The answer is not as short as you might think, because when we started the farm and began growing food, we were growing specifically for our own restaurant. So we went for almost 2 years without selling anything because the idea was to supply our own restaurant. So then we had the trouble with the city And so I would say at about year 3, we began selling to restaurants, to other restaurants.
Would you say that a polyculture method of farming, when including many different plants and animals,
Yes.
offers benefits to both the farm and the city it supplies that a monoculture method might lack?
Absolutely. By definition, to be truly sustainable, you have to have a polyculture on your urban farm, because if you don't, you either have to buy inputs for your garden because you don't have any way to make compost with any kind of manures or any of the things that really enrich a compost. And if you raise only animals, then you have this waste stream that you have to deal with, and that's also not sustainable. So you really have to have the marriage of the two to be truly sustainable. So your animals literally sustain the garden. Their manures are great sources of compost material. Their feathers, their blood, they just are key to having your own sustainable garden. Then the garden, of course, feeds the animals every day. Anything that isn't fit to sell goes straight to them. So it really does create something that's absolutely sustainable.
In short, what benefits would small sustainable farms offer that industrial ones might lack?
The list is way too long. I would keep you here all day to tell you, but I'll tick off some of the highlights. One is that in an urban farm setting, you have people walking by, you invite people to come to your farm, so you're inherently sort of building information, building sort of a sense of health into the community just immediately. We have people 30 or 40 a day stop by at the fence and say hi to the animals and kind of stare at the garden. Industrial farms are, by definition, big polluters, huge polluters. They tend to use a lot of synthetic inputs, which pollutes, the groundwater, the soil. They use big tractors, which pollutes the air. They tend to be really horrendous caretakers for animals. They don't really take the animals' well-being into mind at all. It's all about profit. So there is literally torture going on those farms that hurt everybody, the animals and the people involved. So that's just to get me started. Things on industrial farms tend to be hidden away so that all sorts of bad things can go on that they wouldn't want their neighbors to see. And so it's a really good way to have really bad farming practices.
In general, sustainable development is becoming a big initiative for a lot of cities and regions. Do you believe that cities have the potential to expand urban and local farming to a point of self-sustainment?
I used to. I hope so. I really, truly believe that the way our planet is heating up and the way our environment is becoming weather-wise really unpredictable and seemingly headed down a really, really bad path, I truly think that maybe one of the only ways we can undo all the damage we've done already is to grow food, to raise animals in every neighborhood. Every neighborhood. It's the only way. Gardens are carbon sinks, for one thing. It's the only way we're going to get some of the terrible global warming emissions back under control. People wouldn't have to drive their car to the grocery store to get their groceries. They could walk right down to the neighbor's house. Our farm, for example, we've never used gas-powered equipment. So everything we do here has been done with pitchforks and shovels, 51 beds of vegetables, all by hand. All of our composting is done by tossing the composting. We don't use any pesticide at all. We don't care if it's organic or not. We don't use it. We don't buy inputs from any factory, even if it's organic, to sustain our garden. We don't buy anything. So it really is sustainable, and that's what we're going to have to do. I'm a little nervous about the future because I'm afraid we may have gone too far, and I think one of the only ways we can fix it is by having farms everywhere.
What can cities and local governments do to form a more ideal environment for urban and local farming?
Get behind us, back us up. We really were treated sort of as a nuisance by the city of Austin for quite a long time. It's a really hard way to make a living. It may be close to impossible, and so if cities want us to ensure the success of urban farmers, there need to be things taken into consideration like massive tax breaks on, most especially on the tax of our properties. I mean, real estate taxes can put most urban farms out of business. We actually have a bed and breakfast here as well, and it's probably the only reason that we're still alive, that and the fact that my wife has a real job that supplies us with insurance and that kind of thing. So if the government wants to help out urban farmers, they need to put their money where their mouth is. Real support.
All right, that was pretty much it. Thanks for meeting with me.
Awesome, yeah. So just for your own enjoyment, the roof over there is all photovoltaic panel.
Nice.
And it supplies us with about 75% of our own electricity. Mm-hmm. And then back behind it is 30,000 gallons worth of rainwater collection. And to the right, our well. So none of the animals or vegetables get any kind of chemically treated water.